But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, cut and paste a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. Hello Adam, hola Nacho, ¿cómo estás? Okay, and I need to adjust a window apparently. So we're gonna do that real quick. Really need to organize my OBS entities. There we go. So I always end up having to scroll down. There we go. With Mozilla Firefox. Okay, so if you haven't heard the latest, we now can say for certain that Kilmar Abreu Garcia is in fact alive and looking quite well. Apparently, Bukele has been keeping him someplace other than the Secot death camp, which to me means that he is realizing that he may actually end up having to send him back, as was pointed out during the Van Hollen visit. Actually, the whole reason that he's there at all is that the U.S. government is paying Washington's favorite narco dictator to keep him there. And it seems that somebody's decided it would probably be a good idea to keep him in reasonably good shape because there's a good chance he might have to go back. So, which to me is all actually very good news. And now to bring the rest of them home as well. In the meantime, I had a couple of suggestions from River Rune, who has been suggesting absolute fire lately, and also a couple of recommendations that look potentially interesting. Like from River Rune, we have Trump meets El Salvador president with Aspen goldfish, the Nazi goldfish, which is probably going to be lovely. Yeah, I mean, he looked like he'd been eating. He looked in decent shape. He did not look like he had been in the sort of state that people in that fucking Secot are going to be in. And that makes you wonder, maybe this guy has managed to get a whole lot of attention because the government did actually admit, they claim they made a mistake. I personally think it's always a bit of an oopsie doodle when you send a guy that Washington's favorite narco dictator once dead to the clutches of Washington's favorite narco dictator. That's just me. But, I mean, there are also court orders relating to a lot of these other people. And, I mean, perhaps, we absolutely ought to be demanding the same level of attention to every single one of them, but perhaps the similar arrangements have been made in the sense of keeping them in reasonable shape in case they have to be sent back. Yeah, obviously, we have to just keep the pressure on because the pressure seems to be working. So then we also have somebody I haven't looked at on here in a while, which is Xanderhal, who says that the Hassan and Ethan Klein drama, he misspelled Ethan Klein, neat, is deranged. And, I mean, we haven't looked at Xanderhal in a bit. I'm kind of curious what kind of shitty take he's managed to have. I think we might start out with that. Yeah, alive, and, I mean, in the photos, he looked well. He looked in reasonable shape. He looked like he'd been, like, eating, which is more than you can say about people in Sekot. So, I mean, I think that is actually, short of him being returned, alive and well, that is actually some good news. And should hopefully stop these liberals who are just screaming out based on nothing except, like, they pulled it out of their ass that he's dead. Which, yeah, there was reason to fear for his safety. There was reason to fear for his life. There still is, let's be clear. But the thing is, there's a reason that you don't do that. And, I mean, apart from the fact that he's got a family who's seeing this, and they don't need to deal with that bullshit. But the other reason is, if everybody assumes that somebody who has been disappeared is dead, it takes the pressure off the government to keep them alive. Like, that's why in Argentina, for example, the demand was always aparición con vida, appearing alive. It doesn't translate great into English. I've been thinking about that for a while, and every English version I come up with comes out awkwardly. But, I mean, they knew the odds were against any of these people being alive in Argentina. They knew that. But they also knew you couldn't just assume that, or the government would just, would feel absolutely no reason to keep them alive. So, they always demanded to have them return safe and sound. So far, he does appear to be, at the very least, sound, even though you wouldn't necessarily consider any place in El Salvador to be safe, exactly. But let's see what Xanderhal has to say about Ethan Klein and Hassan. The last time we checked in on Xanderhal, he was explaining that he blamed Hassan for Trump because Hassan didn't lie about Kamala Harris. So here we go, and that's a fucking swastika-looking emblem of his. Oh, I forgot to hit record. There we go.
I want to start this segment with a request. All right, pretty please.
He's starting to look like Tucker Carlson all of a sudden. Is he gonna start wearing fucking bow ties?
If you feel an instinctual aversion to hearing out my argument in this video,
oh, if he thinks even his chat is going to be repulsed by what he's about to say, you know what he is about to say is going to be fucking whack.
I ask that you try your best to stick it out and hear me out on this one. Because...
Ooh, I mean, this... Chat, we know this is about to be bad.
If you still disagree with me, but you hear what I have to say, and you recognize it, and you still disagree,
that would be normal, because when you hear what he says, it usually sucks, and often it's because he doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. That is very much the normal thing with Xanderhal, but it's also because he's a big asshole.
I can still be upset that you don't agree with me on this, but at least it won't be this feeling of, damn, they won't even hear why, though. Like, maybe they changed their mind.
He is afraid of his chat. Wow, what is he about to say on the subject of Hassan and Ethan Klein?
Knew why. And so, if this is something that you have an aversion to, when you find out what I'm going to be talking about here, try your best to stick.
Look at the body language. He is so nervous right now. And somehow I am reminded of a joke I was going to do a second ago. Namely that actually Destiny is a Schrodinger's box. Because somehow he manages to be profoundly empty and yet completely full of shit. He is empty and full at the same time.
Through it and hear me out, okay? You see, Hassan Piker is a very popular figure in this space.
Much more than Xanderhal, and I would say deservedly so. I don't agree with everything that Hassan says, but I think on the whole, he seems to be coming from the right place. Whereas that is not the case with Xanderhal.
To the point where at times it feels like he's become sort of a lefty demigod, where if you criticize him, a lot of people come out to punish you.
Oh, and he hates it when people come out to punish you for criticizing somebody, because he likes to be the one who sends people to punish people. Remember when he and Vosh were directing racist hate mobs towards Professor Flowers for saying that decolonization was good, actually. See, he doesn't like the idea that people might criticize him. Yeah, apparently. Not an entire god, just half of one. Like, we don't know which bits, though.
For doing so,
I baked
he's kind
cookies
of like
just
the
now.
go-to fave for much of the online left right now. And he has been for years. And initially, I actually quite liked Hassan. And there was a lot that I liked about him. I know, like, he didn't really take things seriously, it seemed like. He was kind of a frat bro who could engage with politics at a very approachable level for, like, your average person.
Okay. Wait, is this where he once again says that what he doesn't like about Hassan is that he's against genocide?
But could also engage with it at a deeper level, too. And so...
Whereas Xanderhal is incapable of engaging meaningfully with it at any level.
Because of that, I found myself enjoying, Hassan Piker's stuff every once in a while.
He is so afraid
there were
right
things
now.
about him that just from a subjective content creator...
We gotta watch his chat. If he is worried that his chat is going to be disgusted with him right now. I want to see what they say.
Perspective, he wasn't like my favorite streamer, but it wasn't because I had anything against him in particular, right? Though over time, Hassan started to do and say things that really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not just talking about his, like...
I don't want to think about rubbing Xanderhal.
G moments that have been memed to oblivion, like the... at one point he said that America deserves something that I'm not going to repeat him on because I don't want to get banned. But he said that America deserves something.
Well, I mean... Well, that is like Tim Pool grade cowardice.
And people massively took him out of context, saying that he literally meant that America deserved it, and he might have, looking back at it, but like, it seemed like the context suggested that America...
Hello, Phoenix. Oh, you came in just in time for us to pay a little visit to Xanderhal, who is like squirming in his seat right now. Before talking about, he's like taken this long to talk about whatever the hell his take is on Hassan Piker's feud with genocidal YouTube figure fucking Ethan Klein.
That thing happening because of its foreign policy decisions. And so there were times where I even defended Hassan. There were times where people would attack Hassan simply because he advocated for workers' rights, and yet at the same time he was wealthy, and somehow that was hypocritical. So I called out the fact that no...
So what we're already hearing is, okay, workers' rights, okay, but pointing out that the U.S. is the baddies somehow is beyond the pale.
So, arguing that workers deserve rights does not make you a hypocrite if you happen to have wealth. But over time, things start to change.
I mean, if you're serious about it, it makes you a class traitor, and that is a good thing, actually.
Hassan started to lean a lot heavier. This is one of the least severe things, but it's just kind of leading you into things. Hassan started to lean heavier into the idea of being just like the rest of us. He's even said word for word that he is closer to living the lifestyle of his viewers than he is to living the lifestyle of someone like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk.
Well, I mean, that isn't hard. Like, the lifestyle of fucking Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk is on a fucking is in a different universe compared to just about anyone. Like, so no, I don't. I mean, I think he has, like, entirely from streaming, is my understanding, a couple of million, which makes him way better off than most people in the U.S. Absolutely. And certainly than most people in the fucking world. But that isn't, that is next level. That is not the same thing as having $100 billion. Because the thing is, in this country, yeah, a fucking car crash can end up costing you $1 million. I mean, if your insurance does not cover your treatment that you need, you can end up using that money up in a couple of weeks in intensive care. Whereas, if you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, you could be kept alive on life support with a vent and everything indefinitely, probably for years on end, and it would not use up your money.
Billionaire? I promise you that's not true. In at least the last 5 years, not once has Hassan ever stressed that he won't have to pay, that he won't be able to pay for something. Okay? Like, being very, very clear here. Hassan then went on to say quite a few things about Ukraine I did not like. Particularly that the Russian annexation of Crimea was justified.
Which, the polls in Crimea say a lot of people, like most people there, would agree with. It's worth noting.
He has argued, multiple times that those that defend Ukraine are American pig dogs and are just...
I'm sure that's exactly what he said, American pig dogs. Oh, you had your hearing. How did it go? I mean, what was your feeling coming out of it? Do you feel like you are in with a chance? I'm crossing my fingers for you.
Advocating for the American military-industrial complex, and these takes kind of compiled to the point where, especially with the Ukraine thing, I couldn't like support the guy anymore, and I quickly became a strong critic of him. The reasons go deeper.
Oh, the reasons go deeper. I can't wait.
But I'm not going to elaborate on them.
So he was critical of the U.S. military-industrial complex and was not... Like, notice he isn't giving us quotes. He's just giving his version of this. Like... So, we just have to sort of take that as read, which with Xanderhal, I wouldn't.
Here, because I think they would be better said when substantiated with evidence. Because I just said a lot of stuff about Hassan.
Yeah, and I agree. It would really be nice if you substantiated what you say with evidence once in a while.
But if you like Hassan, what reason do you have to believe anything I just said about him?
None, because honestly, there's no reason to believe a word that comes out of Xanderhal's mouth.
Right? Like, you like him, and I just said a lot of rude stuff. You're obviously going to be charitable, so you need some evidence, right? And that's where this is going to come in. You see, another...
God, ugh. Well, I mean, hopefully your lawyer is right.
One of Hassan's biggest detractors is a man by the name of Ethan Klein. And this is where I'm really asking you guys to hear me out.
Oh, he is going to support these pro-genocidal Zionist YouTuber here. That is why he's so afraid.
Okay? Because I'm already seeing the people in chat. I have followed the Leftovers drama since the start. I have followed every moment of it. I have seen like on accident even, not even on purpose. I have been unconsensually exposed to every single step of the Leftovers breakup drama and the following...
Hello, Garden Nomad. Have I seen you here before? Or do you just have a very similar name to somebody else? I love the name, by the way. Very cool name. I have to say, it is fucked up that a disability hearing can be so confrontational that the process will give the person seeking assistance, who should be accommodated in the process, a fucking panic attack. I mean, that just says everything about how fucked up the whole thing is. I just hope you get it.
Bullshit between Hassan and Ethan Klein. 99% of you who care about this drama have not seen everything involved. In fact, you have probably had the situation filtered solely through one person or the other. And for most of you, it was probably through Hassan, or people in Hassan's orbit. These are not trustworthy figures.
As opposed to Xanderhal.
You have no reason to trust me when I say that now, but we're going to be substantiating that in a moment.
You'll have even less reason to trust him in a minute.
See, we've already got the people in chat saying, like, Ethan Klein is horrible. Most of you think that because you've heard...
Because I've heard... See, I think that... Xanderhal, let me just let you know, in on this. I know you can't hear me, and you're not going to be watching this, and I honestly don't give a fuck, because this is a bit. But the reason I think Ethan Klein is horrible, I had never heard of that motherfucker until, like, a couple of months ago. And then I watched Ethan Klein. And Ethan Klein convinced me that Ethan Klein is a piece of shit. I didn't need anyone else to tell me he sucked. I watched Ethan Klein, and Ethan Klein told me he sucked.
What Hassan's community wants you to believe. So let's go ahead and watch the big video that everyone is talking about right now. And for a little bit of, like, perspective...
Oh, wait, is he gonna watch the content puke?
Outside of, like, the hardcore online left Hassan adjacent sphere, this video has been extremely well received.
By who, exactly?
Hassan has, it is a little bit like, he's kind of radioactive. Hassan is actually very disliked by the broader internet.
By the broader internet?
Normies, conservatives, everybody. Like,
well, see, if it's normies and conservatives don't like him, that makes you radioactive, you see. If right-wingers don't like you, that makes you radioactive.
Dislikes Hassan. A lot of the misinformation, the things we're going to be getting into, the lies, the propaganda, the terrorist sympathy, a lot of these things have led to the broader internet really disliking Hassan Piker.
Who's the broader internet, Zan?
And so this video has gone insanely viral, with 1 million views in a day.
It's worth noting that also Ethan has been, like, hemorrhaging subscribers.
Hassan's community is in, like, maximum copium mode. Progressives are trying to avoid the video because...
Avoid the video? Like, why would you avoid the video? The video is bullshit, and if you know anything about the subject, it is very easy to debunk every single bit of it.
Because they do not want to expose themselves to the arguments of someone that they've been told is a piece of shit. And so, I want to watch this...
So, okay, so he's taking the side of the genocidal Zionist.
Video, because not only does H3H3 take on Hassan and, you know, why he does not like him, but he also tackles the claims about himself that Hassan originated and shows blatant evidence that goes against it.
Okay, which...
A good example, just to preface things, because I know that this will probably be one of the main misconceptions people have going into this. So
okay, what's the main misconception, chat? Any bets?
Spoil the video a little bit, by the way, while we watch this. I'm playing Poke MMO. Hope you guys are cool with that. Just to spoil a little bit, like what he's going to get into, Hassan Piker has claimed multiple times that Ethan Klein and his wife are IDF sympathizers, which of course seems reasonable when you consider that Ela...
They literally are. They literally are IDF sympathizers. I mean, Hila is ex-IDF. Fucking Ethan has been doing propaganda for them. So he's gonna refute the idea that they are IDF sympathizers, a phrase I've never actually heard before. I mean, we could just call them Zionists.
Klein served in the IDF. What Hassan will not tell you, and what this video includes blatant clips of, are Ethan Klein referring to Netanyahu and the IDF as war criminals.
Like, everybody already knows that.
And referring to the fact that as a woman born in Israel, from parents who descend from Jews that fled Europe due to genocide to Israel, and had no say in where she was born, the state of Israel required her military service.
Yeah, and yet there are people every year. There are at least a few, and embarrassingly few, young people who refuse to serve and go to prison instead. Like, that is a thing that people do. Hey, Riveroon.
And yet, this talking point that, like, Ethan Klein is like an IDF terrorist or whatever has been a very popular one.
Yeah, but because she literally is. You haven't actually refuted that, Xanderhal. All you've done is justified it. You said she had to be one.
That's just one example of the misconceptions, but
That's-
Hassan's community, even beyond the mouth of Hassan himself, have done a lot to, for the sake of covering for Hassan,
Oh, that's see, the reason that people are pointing out that Ethan Klein is full of shit and also doing propaganda for a genocide, which is a kind of a fucked up thing to do, actually. Apparently we're all covering for Hassan. Apparently that's what that is. See, because in this, like, fucking toxic-ass community of, like, clout-chasing debate assholes, the idea that somebody talks about something like a genocide because they actually care about the genocide and want it to stop, it just does. That thought does not occur.
destroy the reputation of Ethan Klein, and because, like, if Ethan Klein's a bad guy and he's one of the main people defending Hassan, or attacking Hassan, then surely Hassan must be good.
Well, I mean, if you look at how dishonest his attack was...
example of this, in fact, is a tweet I saw the other day saying, "The Hassan hater to bad person pipeline never fails." Hassan is genuinely convinced he's...
Well, I don't know about that, because some people started out as bad people before they were, like, Hassan haters.
Fans, that if someone is a bad person, or if someone hates him, that it leads to them becoming a bad person without fail.
I mean, I don't know that that's how that works, and I don't even know that that's what's meant. But okay.
Cult-like level of...
But I don't know how Xanderhal thinks he's going to refute this, since he is a bad person, actually.
Assumption that anyone that goes against him must be in the wrong and bad. This is an unhealthy way to think.
What if, Xanderhal, what if the reason that people are, like, clowning on fucking Ethan Klein is not so much that he's against Hassan, but that he's for genocide? Like, maybe it's the things he actually said.
So, even if you don't like Hassan, or H3, or whatever, or me, I just ask that you hear this video out. We're not watching the whole thing. We're only going to watch...
Thank fuck for that, I've seen it too many times.
Because I did skim through it a little bit. I didn't watch it, but I skimmed.
Oh, wow. So he's coming in with his, like, belated hot take on this, and he hasn't even watched the fucking video he's telling you is totally not fucking racist monstrosity.
And the parts of it that I think are the most important are in, like, the first quarter, I'd say. The whole rest is worth watching, but I'm not gonna...
How would you know? You just said you haven't watched it. It's worth watching, chat. It's worth watching. He didn't watch it, mind you, but it's worth watching.
Sit here and, like, subject you all, like, to the whole thing, you know? So let's watch. Actually, I'm gonna turn up the speed a little bit. Or I'm not.
Fuck for that.
Or I'm gonna have to do that through the window. Boom. There we go. Okay. Now, if you're wondering why I preface this, by the way,
it's because he's fucking scared, and he knows he's saying something that really sucks.
Every time...
And he wants you, his chat, to feel guilty that you're already edging towards the door because you know that he's about to say something that sucks.
I do a segment where I criticize Hassan. I can just tell from the comments where people are defending Hassan or getting mad at me for criticizing him that they did not watch more than, like, a few minutes.
Wait a second. He just got done saying that he only skimmed over this video. And now he's saying, oh, well, if you're defending Hassan, you must not have watched it. You're defending Ethan Klein, and you admit you haven't even watched the fucking video.
And that's the frustrating thing for me.
Oh, yeah, I bet, as somebody who watched part of an Ethan Klein video, that he assures people is totally worth watching, but he didn't.
inevitably people are going to still defend Hassan. Like, I get that. Like, they're not going to.
Yeah, especially because in this case he happens to be right.
Me, but it's rough when I can tell they didn't hear me out, you know? Because I feel like most people would.
Xanderhal, you should thank your lucky stars that not everybody hears you out. You sound much worse to those who hear you.
To hear these things and see the evidence and be like, oh, I didn't know. So let's, hopefully, you will now know. Let's watch.
Oh god.
Okay, it's got like this I think a little bit over-edited intro that I'm gonna skip over just because, like, I'm not. I get it's like the video essay thing, but I've watched so many YouTube video essays now that, like, when I detect the, like, big, highly edited intro, to denote.
Yeah, he doesn't like watching that people put effort into their content. Since he does not edit any of his stuff, he just shits it out and puts it up there.
Like how big of a project this is going to be. I'm just like, okay, I get it. This is gonna be big. I get it. Yeah, all right.
Well, no, it's like, see, I mean, I'm nothing if not fair here, but maybe people do the editing and the design and stuff because they want the video to have a certain feel and they care about how the video looks and they care about the people watching it, and so they put some effort into it. Like, I mean, Xanderhal puts absolutely no effort into any of this, but
let's get to it though. I like the editing, but we're gonna have to get to this. Content nuke, Hassan Piker. Be through.
Oh, hi there. It's me, your old friend, Ethan Klein. It's been a while.
Yeah, fuck off, Ethan.
Since we've last spoken. In that time, I've had 3 kids.
It's like I got 2 of my least favorite people in the biggest windows on this screen.
All boys. I've lost 100 pounds. And I've pissed off 75% of the internet. Probably a lot of you guys, too. Actually talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas. Someone should watch.
I mean, I was watching Matt Lieb talking about Ethan Klein recently, and now I really understand why Xanderhal feels this sort of kinship with him, because I know that Ethan Klein has a compilation of him saying the N-word that is like 20 minutes long.
Oh yeah, and I got a tattoo.
And that's the sort of thing Xanderhal has a certain amount of understanding
I always thought that, despite our differences, there was one thing we could all agree on. And what was that?
Well, he skipped a lot. This is like he skipped over the first like 45 minutes of it.
We love America, and everything she stands for.
No comment there. Like watching that. No, I mean, at the time the U.S. is committing a genocide, Xanderhal. No, I mean, not cringing even a little bit.
Sure, there's plenty to criticize and endless things to improve, but I thought it was about making a more perfect union. Not tearing it down. The thing is, there's something kind of scary brewing in America. Communism.
What? Ethan Klein is anti-communist?
I mean, and the thing is, I mean, Hassan isn't a communist, as far as I know. I mean, I haven't heard him advocate communism anyway. He's like, I mean, I don't want to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is he's kind of a left sockdem to a great extent. I may be wrong about that, and I don't mean any shade, but but I don't feel like I've ever heard him say that he's into communism.
No. Well, I don't think Ethan Klein is a communist, but obviously it's a joke about Hassan and how he calls himself a communist.
Does he call him? Chat, I mean, I don't watch that much Hassan. Does he call himself a communist?
So he does get silly. But, like, at the same time, I'm also watching this with the knowledge that, like, half the people watching, maybe less, but, like, some amount of people watching are, like, they've heard through the grapevine of origination from Hassan that Ethan is awful and should not be taken seriously.
And you haven't exactly disabused them of that notion. I mean, Xanderhal, just a word from, I know you don't edit anything. I edit things. I'm an editor. I edit text, I edit video. I even edited sound last night. I edit all kinds of things. But if you're trying to steelman a jabroni, what you don't want to, and you're going to skip over a whole bunch of content, maybe don't skip to one of the most cringe moments in the entire fucking piece.
And so my hope is that they'll watch the video with my commentary, see the evidence, and be like, oh shit. Wait, Zan was right.
No, I can guarantee you nobody who knows anything. Well, then again, we're talking about Xanderhal's audience. How much can they possibly know?
So let's watch.
That's America to me. I started the show a couple of years ago with my acquaintance, Hassan Piker. You might remember him from such classics as
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it, I'm saying it. Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers in a video game. Sorry. Holy shit.
Like, who was he talking about, exactly?
That's not what I said, you dumb cracker bitch.
and of course, the Leftovers podcast, which was our show, which we made broadly to goof on the antics of the right. Now, to be clear, I knew about all these edgy, controversial jokes at the time we made the show.
Okay, so, which is kind of an admission, because he acts as if this is, like, new and shocking. This is, like, literally... I mean, this is Hassan's whole thing, at least from everything of him that I've seen.
Together, because who am I to judge?
There was Ethan Klein.
Oh, yeah, that is a good question, Ethan. Who are you?
Delightful to me.
I was just going to say, if there's another Holocaust, if they start rounding up the Jews again, I hope Ben gets... He presents himself as someone like me, a left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things.
He doesn't present himself as... Like, he doesn't... You understand, he literally is saying all of these things on stream, publicly. If he's trying to hide that he is a major critic of U.S. imperialism and actually thinks that sometimes the other side has a point, he's not doing a very good job of it.
We went on making the show for about 2 years, and everything was good. Everyone was having fun, the audience was having fun, no problem.
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting, if you know, I did not, the first time I watched this, what seems to have occasioned the falling out, but it was actually the murder of journalists by Israel, the murder of Shadi Abu Aklin, which left Ethan very cold. Ethan still, like, lies and denies that Israel is murdering journalists, Palestinian journalists. And Hassan was visibly fucking affected by it. Like, with more sincerity than I've ever seen out of Ethan.
That wasn't until this happened. We were doing our regular show, and for the first time I noticed an inordinate amount of radical, hardcore leftists. I mean, I thought we were social democrats, not whatever this was. I don't hate the idea of, like, people who can be successful. I think it's good.
Well, what the fuck does that even mean?
People can achieve success, in the term monetary success.
This is very common, by the way, in the online left, is like, you may not be like a full-on, like, abolish all money and ownership of property communist, and in some spaces, if you have built like a audience in correlation with a lot of other creators, they're going to expect you to be like a full-on abolish all money and private property.
Well, so what you're saying is that when you're in a community that is defined by their political positions, there's a tendency to expect those positions to be shared? Wow, this is shocking.
Be communist, and if you're not, you might as well, like, actually be just, like, openly racist. Like, you might as well be, like, a Nazi.
No. I mean, not that I really should... Xanderhal has lived experience here, because he was a Nazi. And now he wants to be paid because he isn't one anymore, except that he does have a tendency to say Nazi shit.
And so, for Ethan Klein, once he said he was a social democrat and not a socialist...
I don't think anyone was shocked.
Communist, sorry? And he doesn't believe that, like, someone having like millions of dollars instantly makes them a bad person.
Like, I don't think that people who like Hassan necessarily think that that's the case either. Because otherwise, why are they fans of Hassan? He does have millions of dollars. He has a very expensive fucking car that I remember him showing off at one point. So clearly that would not be a deal breaker for Hassan's audience. I mean, what pisses me off about what R-Fuck said about autistic people is that he said it on April 16th. Like, what? Say that shit on April 14th. Then I could go out and get a diagnosis and skip the bullshit. I think it's great that he doesn't want people on the spectrum to pay taxes. I could use the break.
That was when this really all started. That's where, like, a concerted effort began to be like, this guy is a piece of shit.
Really? I mean, I had not even heard of him at that point. Yeah, Riveroon, that is basically my understanding as well. I mean, I've never heard him define himself, but just judging from the positions, it's like he does not seem to be, like, explicitly on team, like, proletarian revolution, but on the other hand, he is at least sympathetic to it.
I mean, that's what that means, right? I do. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Because I see some new haters saying, no.
I don't know what y'all are tripping about, but what the fuck you...
What did I get?
You guys like looking for? You guys are all like radical communists? There's that many radical communists? Suck it, chat. You're watching a capitalist pig. Deal with it. And then this happened. This comment from Hassan really started to sound some alarms in my head.
If you're in a socialist country with multiple parties, and one of the parties is a capitalist party, which would surely exist, what would you do if that party started gaining momentum?
The solution to that would always be education.
Yeah, and notice how dishonest this is. This is so dishonest, Xanderhal could have done it.
And offering more...
re-education?
Re-education, certainly. Yeah, there should be an enforcement.
Yeah, which is not the same thing. Like, notice all the jump cuts here. What he's trying to do is quite obvious, but the jump cuts make it suspicious as hell. Like, he said education. Ethan threw in re-education, the idea being to imply re-education camps or something like that, but that isn't necessarily what that means. I mean, that can just as well mean that you're saying that people are falling for capitalist grifters, and that could mean that there's a problem where they're not actually understanding what their bullshit is.
Mechanism.
That can mean a lot of different things.
Enforcement mechanism, I think, like...
So, something you're going to realize very quickly is that
Ethan Klein is a very dishonest person, and Xanderhal is taking his whole ass out for us to see.
Hassan's fan... If you watch Hassan and you like his stuff, chances are you don't, like, religiously watch him. Like, you're not watching everything he does. You're not watching his streams beginning to end. Which means that...
You mean sort of like Xanderhal didn't watch this entire video that he says is so worth watching?
Like, the moments where Hassan lets the mask slip
and
like this...
He's not letting the mask slip, though. And, you know, the wild thing about this... Let me see. This is a recent video. This is like... Oh, no, this is 2 months ago. I'm sorry. I was about to say things that would have been chronologically inaccurate. Okay, because a lot of the rebuttals have come since this, then. Yes, I agree, Garden Nomad. That is something that does always have to be proved.
And he admits he's in, like, he wants to put capitalists into re-education camps.
He did not say that. Like, do you think that Ethan would have put all these jump cuts in if Hassan had in fact said that?
I mean, it's like people who aren't in favor of communism, right? Like, we do...
No, that's not what capitalists mean.
A revolution, and we put the people who want capitalism back into camps, where they're forcibly re-educated, quote-unquote.
That's not what he said.
Into understanding why socialism is better. Because they certainly can't be allowed to think that socialism isn't better.
I mean, if he said that, Xanderhal, do you think he would have cut so much of it? If he actually said that?
Hassan has a million takes like this, but if you watch him...
I haven't even seen evidence of one take like this. Like, why can't we just hear the entire dialogue and see where he's suggesting the camps and where he defines these things the way Xanderhal wants us to think he does?
99% of the time, he's just talking about, oh, look at these crazy hogs, look at these crazy conservatives, or, streamer drama, or just random, clout, normal streamer stuff. You're very unlikely to have ever been there at one of these moments if you're a Hassan fan. Which is why, from the perspective of your average Hassan fan, he's actually, a pretty reasonable, neutral, almost sock dem seeming guy that everyone's, derangedly referring to as a communist.
As if that's a bad thing? Yeah. Yeah, when I hear people like, oh, they want to destroy Western society, it's like, oh, where can I join them?
As a terrorist sympathizer who wants to, kill Americans or put them into camps,
things for which no citations will be provided.
You've never seen Hassan say this. Surely if you believe these things...
Well, you have... here's a little spoiler alert. You will not see Hassan say any of that shit in the video that Zan is looking at.
You heard it. The fact is, he's expressed these things at critical moments that led to the events that got us here.
And yet, they aren't in the content puke.
Rehabilitation, which would include re-education as well.
If putting capitalists in re-education camps isn't disturbing enough.
And again, there's no evidence that that's what he said. We're just supposed to take Ethan's word on it.
I started to notice that Hassan was carrying a lot of water for communist states, war crimes, and genocides.
What do you call Crimea? I call it part of Russia.
Russia is not a communist state.
Territory, bitch. That's what I call Crimea. I call it Crimea River.
Yeah, so now, to be clear, Hassan has walked these takes back in response to criticism. Hassan is very clout-brained, and so when he...
Something that, Xanderhal is above the clout thing.
Gets called out and realizes that he went too far with a take like this, for instance. He gets pretty quick to walking it back and trying to minimize it. And now when people criticize him for this take and for...
Then he points out that actually he clarified what he was saying. I don't know if what he said was true. I assume it wouldn't surprise me, since he's practically doing a bit there. Actually, the thing about business degrees is in capitalism they are real because they are actually degrees that are... They're the only degree that actually teaches you how capitalism works, as opposed to economics degrees, which teach you how to justify the outcomes capitalism gets. So, MBAs, they do learn things. Because you could not actually function in being put in charge of investment decisions in capitalism without a tolerable understanding of how it actually functions, which is something that your average economist does not have.
Defending Russia, he refers to them as crazy, as liars, making things up about him.
You haven't exactly refuted that.
This is not the only clip of him, not just defending Russia, but championing Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
You're not going to say anything about how Ethan just called Russia communist?
Russian River. The annexation of Crimea is absolutely a justifiable annexation. Tibet was literally a fucking feudal slave mandate.
What he's saying is true, actually.
For those that don't know, China colonized Tibet, genocided the people.
There's literally no one claims that China genocided the Tibetans. I've never even heard, the Tibetans don't say so. What is true is that China, which I'm not actually a fan of, but they did the right thing here, got rid of a fucking feudal slave society that was based on hereditary class system where, the monks were allowed to do literally anything they wanted to their slaves.
All that awful stuff, and so that's what Hassan's talking about here.
So to be clear, what he's calling the awful, awful stuff is not the slave society, but the fact that China ended it. And it's worth noting, Tibetans don't want it back.
He's defending it because Tibet also practiced like slavery and feudalism and stuff, and was.
And well, yes, he's defending ending those things because it was China that ended them.
Very backwoods with its like, it wasn't very progressive. So
it wasn't very progressive. Yes, it had fucking literal fucking debt slavery and an impressive array of torture implements. And it was only like in the past decade or so that the Dalai Lama allowed as how actually maybe slavery was bad.
It's okay that China colonized and genocided them.
Autonomous zone. That was one. I mean,
land.
In America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. You know, we talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in fucking normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in and
So China unilaterally took over Tibet, swept their culture. They basically are trying to, homogenize the culture.
If you're,
I mean, this is Ethan. It's worth noting, defending the slave society.
Culture.
They're trying to swell the religion and the identity.
The part of feudal warlords and slavery, abolishing that. Yes, I do think that is good.
No, yeah, notice he's very specifically saying, he's not saying every single thing China did in Tibet is great. What he's saying is China's role in fucking abolishing slavery in Tibet was good. Like, that is not a hard point to comprehend.
They did them a favor.
This is a good way to describe Taiwan as well. The American federal government going to the fucking south and killing, unfortunately not all of them, but a decent amount of slavers and defenders of slavery. This is violent retribution.
So Hassan's.
Of course. Xanderhal is a big believer in white genocide. So naturally, the idea that the Union Army was right with General Sherman to go and just fucking scorched earth the plantations and really go to town on the slave owners and everything, that's going to make Xanderhal very uncomfortable.
Comparison is that China, doing what they did to the Tibetan people, is the equivalent of the United States Union violently, quote-unquote, stopping slavery.
Wait, why quote-unquote? I mean, are we going to talk about the big exception in the 13th Amendment? Is that why? Or what?
The irony of this, by the way, is that every leftist should know that the Union was not really fighting to stop slavery.
Yes, but they did. In fact, see, here's the thing about this. The Union was initially fighting to preserve the Union, and they were doing really, really badly. What actually changed things was when they realized that enslaved people were risking their lives in order to provide them with intelligence and, like, demanding to be allowed to fight on their side. And then they realized the only way they were going to win the war is if it became a war against slavery. And that is what it ended up being, in large part, thanks to all of these, all of these enslaved black people in the South and, freed people in the North who had escaped or otherwise, made it to the North, who, were demanding the chance to actually join in the fight to free their people. That is what turned the tide for the fucking Civil War. So, I mean, this is just a wild thing for
And
him
that
to
was
say.
like a perfect example of like the milquetoast, like white moderate liberalism of like feigning like progressivism to a degree in order to like come off it like his like retroactively as progress. Like this is the kind of thing that like he criticizes the Dems for.
He is referring to a very specific episode in the Civil War, namely what General Sherman did and Reconstruction in the post-war.
And yet he actually just expressed the false
no, he didn't.
narrative that the Union fought to end slavery when that wasn't the case at all. That That wasn't it.
He is really, really grasping here.
The South fought to defend slavery, but the Union wasn't fighting to end slavery.
From a powerful federal government that squashed, okay?
Like, he's literally talking about Reconstruction here. Which apparently Xanderhal never heard of.
The South in the Civil War?
Yes.
And most disturbingly, a complete whitewashing of the Chinese genocide against their Muslim minority group, the Uyghurs.
Really?
Don't they have Uyghur death camps? Is that
No, they actually don't. Like, literally, there is no... They aren't even accused of actual physical extermination. Cultural genocide, yes, and actually... I mean, there's a really good, really good video from Bad Empanada going through this, pointing out that by China's own admission, what they're doing is cultural genocide, but not physical. But there's no evidence of actual physical extermination.
It's not a death camp. They were re-education camps, and they are no longer in operation.
Is that
according
true?
to the Associated Press?
Okay. I saw that.
So for those that don't know, I actually did a segment like 4 years back on the Uyghur camps. Technically it's not a death camp.
Well, technically it's not a death camp. Like, let's be clear that when we're talking about a death camp, the point of a death camp is that you kill everyone who goes in there.
As in, like, the process is not like, okay, now kill everybody who comes in.
So it's technically not a death camp because it doesn't do the thing that makes a death camp a death camp.
But the treatment and conditions are so bad that, like, a shitload of deaths have happened. And what they really are is forced labor camps. I don't like distinguishing, like, oh, it's not a death camp, when it's literally a forced labor camp.
Why don't you like making that distinction? That is an important fucking distinction. Like, Holocaust historians make that distinction. They only use the term death camps to refer to the specific camps where people that were designed so people would not survive beyond the day they arrived.
But yeah, that's what they do. A big thing was at the start of COVID, they were having the Uyghurs that they had captured and forced into these camps. They were having them work to physically sew masks at the start of the pandemic. They were using them as mass forced labor for mass production. Oh, don't you evolve, you little shitter. Right.
Crazy documentary, and I don't know. I don't know.
So full-on slavery.
I don't know the surrounding.
China stopped slavery by enslaving the supposed slavers.
Oh, yeah, so he's found a way to adapt white genocide here.
That's basically what Hassan's saying.
No, it isn't what he's saying.
Narrative or anything about it, but it was about there was doctors in the area. They would be able to procure organs.
No, that's not.
I'm telling you, they were in China.
That one is like Shenyun.
Yeah, that literally is. There is no evidence, okay, what is true is they have a system where, prisoners who receive capital punishment, if they don't opt out and when their bodies aren't claimed, then they do harvest their organs. What is bullshit is the idea that they're specifically targeting Falun Gong and Shenyun to harvest their organs. Literally nobody except Shenyun, Falun Gong front groups claims this. Like, none of the reputable human rights groups, none of your mainstream human rights groups have picked this up, because literally everywhere you go, every single source that claims that this is the case is connected with one of two groups. One is Falun Gong, and the other is the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. And those two, you will always find them together.
Yeah, you an organ from a Uyghur. But why is that? Is that really that crazy?
The Associated Press quietly fucking wrote an article that didn't get a lot of coverage in mainstream media about how, like, okay, well, all the concentration camps have been closed now. Like, all the re-education camps are closed now in fucking Xinjiang, and it's like very different vibes in Xinjiang. And now, it's the tourism hour.
Let's see what the Associated Press actually has to say about this. These are all AP articles from the last 2 years. UK independent body reports China
The UK independent body is
committed genocide.
Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation.
In Xinjiang, China sanctioned a U.S. research firm and 2 individuals over a report about the human rights violations in Xinjiang.
Which 2 individuals? I mean, this does not actually address what Hassan was saying, though.
It's the tourism hour.
To China's fury.
See, this is really cute to hear Xanderhal caring so much about the human rights situation in Xinjiang, considering that he is defending somebody who is pro-genocide, and he himself has attacked Hassan for not, like, shutting up about the genocide because pointing out the genocide was hurting fucking Harris. I mean, yeah, this is just a wonderful example of how the moral cowardice of motherfuckers who will be like, oh wow, I'm so appalled about what our official enemies are doing. Well, what we're doing is okay, though. What we're doing, yeah, I know, we're doing a genocide right now, but I don't think we should talk about that. We got an election on. We really don't want that to interfere with the fact that there's an election. But, I mean, look at what our official enemies are doing. That's fucked up. I am a very moral person.
UN accuses Beijing of Uyghur rights abuses.
Tourism hour.
Uyghur County in China has the highest prison rate in the world. 1 in 25 people is in a Chinese prison.
It's the tourism hour.
48.
To be clear, by the way, even beyond this, if you're not kept in a camp, Uyghur Muslims are, like, you have to legally be kept under 24-hour surveillance. China considers anyone who's part of that, like, ethnic group and racial minority a presumed terrorist, and so, like, you are, like, literally always under 24/7 surveillance if you're not being held.
So it's kind of like what the NSA does. It's kind of like what the U.S. does to Muslims, is what you're saying. I'm going to skip ahead because I want to get to the Palestine stuff.
Even on the internet. There's just not a space for it. Mostly because Hassan's community and the ones adjacent to it crush anyone who dares to speak out against this. Like, I'm going to get brigaded by tankies who want really basic good stuff. You'd watch a video from him and think, this is a reasonable guy, let's go. And I love Second Thought. Most popular figures on the left are the ones who are able to niche down super hard with an audience that was so fanatical that they didn't just go off to live a normal life when Biden took office.
So fanatical that you still cared about the stuff you said you cared about, even when Biden took office and he was the one in charge of doing them.
So
imagine being so fanatical that you don't like concentration camps no matter who's in charge of them.
Hassan, recognizing that the only, like, constant, guaranteed, dedicated, cult-like following he could maintain were the tankies, heavily marketed himself to the tankies. And a lot of the figures that he currently associates with are some of the most deranged tankies out there. So I don't know if it's that he's getting paid by China. I think that he's audience capture, by tanky audience. Like,
his audience shits all over him, though. He is constantly attacking his like, oh, I've been looking at the wrong mouse cursor. No wonder it wasn't moving. Like, the idea that he is just, like, captured by his audience, that is taken directly from Ethan. And it's nonsense.
I almost said essence of thought.
He has a very contentious relationship with a lot of his audience.
Second thought, is that, like, popular YouTuber who makes, like, virality bait, really so damage kind of, like, basic lefty, like, here's an injustice in our society, here's how the wealthy Republican ownership classes keep me down, like, really basic good stuff. You watch a video from him and think, this is a reasonable guy, let's go, and I love Second Thought. And then he recently got a video on how the Tiananmen Square massacre never happened. Wait, that was Hakeem, who was friends with Second Thought. Hakeem was also the same way. He was the one that recently got a video on the Tiananmen Square massacre never happened. That was Hakeem. And before that, I think it was Second Thought who put out a whole video about how the West has fear-mongered about Russia, and all the stuff that's bad that you hear about Russia is Western fear-mongering.
Like, can you give an example, though?
It's...
Your chat is calling you racist. Do you make any attempt to modify?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I'm back. I finally found
it. The Western superpowers. That's a principle that you could take home with
tankies for this video. Just letting you know.
A 5-year-old. I know America Bad is a meme that people laugh at online. Both
It's funny that people like Ethan and Xanderhal and Vush will, like, try to deride America bad, like that is the position people are taking, but they never try to actually make the case for America good. And I can understand that, because especially, like, in the past year and a half, not an easy case to make. It wasn't an easy case to make before that, but these days...
Hassan, this does actually seem to be the beginning and the end of his analysis.
2 principles. Let me explain to you. 2 principles that you should keep with you, coming from a person who's Turkish, okay? When you look at a situation in the Middle East, you look at what the local government is and who the Western forces are.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good starting point in the analysis. I mean, he's not saying that's the end of the analysis, but usually you can find... Actually, the worst human rights abusers in the region are all backed by the U.S. Saudi, Israel, fucking Morocco.
Never align with the Western forces. So when I look at other countries,
there you go.
I look at the regional actor, whoever the power is, and then I look at who is...
Yeah, I mean, he just said that, and actually it holds true. Like, look at the people that the U.S. supports. They're not good people.
Backed by the Western superpowers. That's a principle that you can take home with you. If you want to actually be moral, or if you want to be smart about the way you analyze other countries, that's one basic principle that you can take home with you. All of a sudden, magically, you are above on your foreign policy analysis. You're going to be better off than 90% of people that look at the situation.
After seeing all of this, I was already getting uncomfortable with our partnership. I started to wonder if I had any...
I like how this idea, like, this is some sort of fucking secret he dug up.
Any idea who this guy actually is. And then...
You had no idea. He's doing this all publicly. It isn't a secret. He's doing it on Twitch. You can just fucking watch. You're saying you didn't ever watch?
This happened.
We have breaking news out of Israel this morning where Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders overnight.
After the shock of October 7th, I noticed a huge increase of anti-Semitic comments from Hassan's stream and
no examples provided.
Discord, including from his head mod. I was disturbed that Hassan was seemingly okay with this.
Do you care that your chat is calling you racist?
That's not an anti-Semitic comment. Ethan is racist.
Do you make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat. I have not looked at my chat at all. But
I just opened it. But don't you have moderators? Do you care all about what your audience does about me?
There's 32,000 people in here right now.
You guys are going to see over the course of this.
It is so wild that he thinks it's damning that that somebody called Ethan racist, and Hassan says there are 32,000 people in chat right now, and I'm trying to do a stream, so I can't look at all of it.
H3H3 does show evidence of how extreme the harassment from Hassan's community gets. So
where do they show this? Because it's not in this fucking video.
Where people start, like, harassing him and his wife in public while they have...
yeah, and that was a really great example, because the guy literally is not a fan of Hassan. Ethan lied his ass off about the guy.
They're like baby with them, like calling them genocidal, murderous terrorists.
I mean, you basically called Hassan all those things in the past 32 minutes of the stream. The difference is that Ethan is genocidal.
Hassan... We'll get to it in a little bit. Like, Hassan's like such a baby bitch, by the way. If you've ever like looked into it at all whatsoever, Hassan has...
Like, this is literally... Somebody called Ethan out for being racist, and Xanderhal is offended on is like crying on his behalf.
Cried to the mods of livestream fails, the subreddit that like collects clips from streamers. He's begged them to ban streamers that he doesn't like. He's
examples.
Begged them to deboost posts that are about him that make him look bad. He is literally friends with the higher ups at Twitch, particularly the CEO, Dan.
Well, in the sense that the higher ups at Twitch like somebody who drives this level of traffic to them.
And Clancy, who lets him get away with just about everything. He blatantly breaks TOS. And
like, how?
Gets away with it, while creators that do TOS get, like permabans. The bias that Hassan benefits from, because of his clout, is immense. Like, it's a big problem. And
yeah, I mean, it's true. A smaller leftist creator taking the positions he would take, without who he isn't violating TOS, not really. But I mean, smaller leftist creators get shut down all the fucking time.
Despite all
That's
that,
true.
He is constantly throwing his weight around, using it to say, "Oh, why are you letting people in your community shit talk me?" Like, if you're
citation still kind of
a
needed.
creator and you want to be part of Hassan's orbit, you cannot let creators or like anyone in your community shit talk him. You have to like regiment your community to be a Hassan positive community. That's part of the rules of being in the Hassan orbit.
Wow, I mean, it's funny the way he talks about this as somebody who was in the Bush orbit.
And so it's understandable that Ethan Klein would have gone to Hassan like, like your community is like attacking me right now.
Well, they called him racist, probably because he said some racist shit.
Like, we're friends, we have a show together. You're gonna like call this out? They're lying about me. They're calling me racist.
Where's the lie? He is racist. He's very racist, actually.
They're claiming I'm in favor of genociding Palestinians.
Again, well, first of all, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but he's been doing propaganda for that. He's absolutely been shilling for it.
Like, and Hassan, well, you're going to hear what Hassan says in response to that. And I just want to
We already heard it. He said, there are 32,000 people in chat. I can't follow them all.
You know, this excuse is one he would never accept from a creator he was friends with whose community was shit-talking him. And that is what particularly stands out to me.
Why don't we get to hear what Ethan said that led people to call him racist?
I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child cold arrogant?
Even if I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised when your Discord is literally full of fucking...
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do if you're making that argument. You know that, right? Like,
making what argument, though? I mean... Since Ethan cut this video, Ethan, unlike Xanderhal, knows how to edit a video, and he's left out the argument that Ethan was making. I think it kind of matters what argument, because what he's saying is, if Ethan says something like Ethan said, he's got to expect that some people are going to say that's racist. So, you'd kind of want to know what Ethan said, wouldn't you?
Some chat had been calling me a Zionist, baby-killing genocider.
I mean, he is a Zionist. He's very explicitly a Zionist.
Maybe it is unreasonable that I'm asking him to moderate his chat for a friend.
Like, he is a Zionist, though. That's not a lie. He's just so fucking cowardly about it.
He doesn't even know where I'm coming from because it's not something he would ever ask for.
and all these other content creators actually, whipping their communities when their chat is going fucking absolutely bananas over random dumb shit and bringing my name up for no fucking reason. That you were just allowing that shit to run.
Like, what's the context? I wonder if the context is different.
Random in your chat, and I thought that was fucked up. Even if I love you, but there's only so much I can do, especially as someone who thought...
Well, like, if Ethan actually thought it was unfair, like manifestly unfair to call him racist, he would have included the thing that Ethan said. He would not have omitted the thing that people were responding to. The fact that he omitted that bit, sorry about that, and my throat is a bit dry, just goes to show that Ethan knows he said something problematic.
I think that's a reasonable expectation for someone who you consider to be a friend.
The problem wasn't that he was pro-Palestinian, because I share a lot of those views, and
Yeah, a lot of those views. Except for the bit where where there shouldn't be apartheid.
I'm a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause for many years.
The more I see of Ethan, the more I have to just bitterly laugh at that bullshit. Stalwart. He can't even bring himself to be against apartheid. He fucking uses the lie that the Gaza Health Ministry is run by Hamas in order to cast doubt on the death toll there. He makes all sorts of fucking excuses about that. He promotes all sorts of discredited Israeli hoaxes that are meant to justify genocide. And then he calls himself a stalwart supporter. What? Because he donated a little bit of money.
The problem with the song's coverage, and a lot of people like him, was their complete lack of empathy for the Jewish people who were frankly slaughtered by Hamas.
I mean, even that, I have to say, I mean, as I've mentioned previously, in previous weeks, I am doing this chronology of the journalistic investigations into Israel's claims about the 7th of October. And now I've been working on November 2023. In my November 2023, two really key things were already found. This is less than a month after it happened. Well, no, a little bit more than a month after it happened. For one thing, Yasmin Porat, who was like one of the two sole survivors of what went down at Be'eri, gave a much more specific, detailed interview about what went down there. She made it clear that for 2 days, like on the evening of the 9th of October, everybody in Be'eri was still alive. She tells of how she went up to the tank commander. She was trying to explain to them the situation so that they would know how to avoid hitting any of the Israelis. And she actually drew them a diagram, she says, of the house where everybody was being held, showing exactly where the people were and everything. The deputy tank commander then fired 2 tank shells right into this house, killing everybody but one person, burning them beyond fucking recognition. And that same tank commander is also the one who originated the story about Hamas burning children and shit, which they did not have any equipment that would make it possible for them to do. So, I mean, by a month in, it was becoming very clear that there were a whole lot of people in the so-called Gaza envelope, Israelis who would have been alive if it had been up to the Palestinian resistance, who were not, because Israel was either completely indiscriminately firing at like anything that moved from the air and from a distance and all sorts of things, or carrying out the Hannibal Directive, which now Yoav Gallant, who Ethan and Hila think is a really good guy, he admitted he signed off on. So, like, shut the fuck up, Ethan.
Refused to show even a crumb of empathy for the Jewish victims. But listen to what this guy has to say.
Like, it is kind of fucked up to be having a rave right outside a concentration camp, though. But, I mean, one of the things we know, this is a rally on October 7th, so one thing to keep in mind about this is that a lot of the Israeli narrative about, like, supposed atrocities that the Palestinians carried out, which are often things that they're blaming the Palestinians for things that Israel did, but a lot of that didn't come out for, like, 3 or 4 days. People were responding to what footage was available, and the footage did not show anything like that. The thing we found out, like from Israeli investigations, the Israeli cops and intelligence confirmed this to Haaretz in the mid-November 2023, is that they had absolutely no way of knowing that this rave was going to be going on. Because it was a last-minute thing. The location and the time, it was extended an extra day, and that was a last-minute decision. And the other thing, and this does not get mentioned a lot, so this rave occurred in an area called Re'im. Now, what's interesting about that is that there's something else that also is present in Re'im, namely the divisional HQ of the Gaza division of the Israeli military. Like, literally, they had this rave right adjacent, well, in the immediate vicinity anyway, of a prime military objective. And you almost never see that mentioned. Like, I did not realize that until I was just going through, I was trying to get an understanding of the layout of everything, to understand some of the stuff I was reading in the Israeli press going back to November 2023, and it's like, right there, the headquarters of the Gaza division is right in the little town, the little settlement, where this rave was also going on. So, the fact that they were converging on this area probably had more to do with the fact that Gaza Divisional HQ was right there, and less to do with a rave they didn't know was going to be going on.
Yeah, so this was one of the things that, like, you probably have not seen this, but this is one of the big pro-Palestine protests where one of the speakers started using a megaphone and...
Wow, a protest where people use megaphones. That's so weird.
And basically saying that, basically making light of the people who were killed.
He wasn't making light of it because nobody, this is on the 7th. None of that came out until days later.
On October 7th, mind you, these were like, it was a concert. It was like teenagers and like young 20s.
Actually, there were a lot of 40-somethings, and the other reason it was by Re'im, it was explicitly so that soldiers could participate in it.
Is like kids.
This is Xanderhal justifying Ethan Klein and more or less like fucking jumping the shark, really and truly.
Just at a concert, you know, these weren't like soldiers.
Yeah, actually they were soldiers. There were a lot of soldiers at the concert. That's why they moved it so close to Gaza, the HQ of the Gaza division.
Or whatever, but like at this point there were a lot of like, haha, yeah, they came in on electric hang gliders and they put an end to those hipsters at that raid or whatever.
That's not what he said. He said they put an end to the rave, which is true. Although the rave was actually ending a little bit before anyone saw any sign of fighters. It took them a while to get there, and they didn't know this rave was going on. But this is on October 7th. On October 7th, none of this bullshit that Ethan is trying to attribute to this guy was even discussed. Israel had not started making those claims for like 2 days.
Like,
so I mean, I've seen a lot of examples where people will take a protest or rally that was going on the 7th of October and treat it as if they were necessarily endorsing things that Israel claimed didn't claim happened until 2 days later, so they couldn't have known that these things were even accusations yet.
There has been some pretty horrific rhetoric that has come from individuals at these protests, and there's been this problem where I don't think that if you're pro-Palestine you have to like disavow this, but it is unsettling to me that there's been this like sweeping for it, you know, like and this outright
this sweeping for it
to anyone who mentions that this is a thing.
That what is a thing though?
I don't know.
Nobody had seen this coming.
I mean, that's insane, right?
I don't even. Yeah. Okay. Like.
Okay.
I don't.
Just criticizing people. You don't have to comment if you're not comfortable about it. I honestly felt at times that he and his audience barely thought.
You could tell Hassan was so uncomfortable with that video. Like, that's just not the kind of thing that he wants his fans seeing. Because
well, when was he watching that video?
Remember, just getting people a little bit into context at the time, do you remember any public figure in the online left admitting that there were some cases like that happening?
Cases like what happening exactly? Like all the guy said was that they showed up in hang gliders and it ended the rave. He didn't actually say anyone was killed. Let's be clear. You're like what Ethan is doing and what Xanderhal is doing is attributing knowledge of accusations made by Israel 2 days later to a guy who could not possibly have been referring to them because they hadn't been made yet.
Or acknowledging videos like that existed? Or was it mostly like the pro-Israel...
I mean, the videos that came out on the 7th of October, I remember them well. And they did not actually show anything that anyone would be particularly uncomfortable with. You know, you had like young guys running And old men, too, like, weeping because they're getting to walk on the land that they were kicked out of back in between 48 and 52. You had, like, videos of, like, Qassam fighters being really, really reassuring and comforting and making it clear to, like, random civilians they encountered that they weren't, that they would say, we believe in the Quran, we're not going to hurt women and children and stuff like that. And reassuring them and comforting them and stuff like that, and actually being quite nice to them. The stuff that you saw in, like, the first 24 hours was nothing to do with the accusations that Israel made later.
Zionist genociders are calling us anti-Semitic to cover up their genocide.
Well, that is literally... Wait.
Genociders. Like, the pro-Israel Zionist genociders are calling us anti-Semitic to cover up their genocide.
That is literally something that goes on all the time. Like, are you denying that happens, Xanderhal? And let's just remember, like, we talk about anti-Semitism, Xanderhal is not exactly free of anti-Semitism himself. Like, he endorses the OG Nazi conspiracy theory that German Jews controlled all the banks.
And that's all that's happening. Because I remember that being the narrative.
I mean, yeah, and it still is because it's true. And that clip does not actually prove otherwise. But I just noticed the time. It is time to wrap up for today. Thank you for joining in. It's always nice to see you. And I will be back tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and I look forward to seeing you then. Have a